You need to move your belongings to the crew quarters. James needs the master suite to recover. My father said it calmly, standing in the center of my bedroom, wearing my silk robe and sipping my vintage scotch at the edge of the bed. My mother had her fingers inside a jar of my $800 face cream. She spread a thick layer onto her cracked heel without even looking at me. "Don't just stand there, Vanessa," she said. "Your brother is stressed. You can sleep with the staff." I stepped out of the bedroom and onto the aft deck, needing air that didn't feel contaminated by betrayal. The Miami heat was intense, but it was the sight of Leo, my 19-year-old junior deckhand, that made my stomach tighten. He stood near the gangway, twisting his cap in his hands, looking like he was waiting for punishment. "Miss Vanessa, I'm sorry," he said quietly, avoiding eye contact. "They had IDs. They said it was a surprise anniversary visit. Your father," he continued, "told me that if I spoiled the surprise, he'd have you fire me immediately. He knew your name. He knew I'm still on probation." They hadn't broken a lock or bypassed security. They pressured a teenager. That was their method. Social engineering fueled by entitlement. They knew exactly which weaknesses to target. "It's fine, Leo," I replied, steadying my voice despite the shake in my hands. "Take your break. I'll handle this." I turned back toward the salon. I hadn't seen my parents in 3 years. No calls, no holidays, just silence after they drained my college fund for James's first business attempt. Now they were back, not to repair anything, but to collect. Inside the main salon, their takeover was complete. 4 large suitcases blocked the walkway. My brother James was already stretched across the Italian leather sofa, scrolling through his phone. He glanced up, smirked, and motioned around the room. "Not bad, V. A little plain, but workable. The Wi-Fi's decent." "Get out," I said. "All of you, now." Brenda walked out of the master suite, drying her hands with a towel she had taken from my private storage. "Don't be dramatic, Vanessa. It's not a good look. We're family. You have plenty of space." "This is a business," I said, stepping between James and the bar. "You are trespassing on a commercial vessel. If you're not off this boat in 5 minutes, I'll call the port authority." "And say what?" Roger laughed as he poured himself another drink. "That you're evicting your elderly parents after everything we've done for you?" He stepped closer, invading my space, the scent of my scotch heavy on his breath. "We raised you. We gave you a home for 18 years. We sacrificed so you could have this." He gestured dismissively at the $1 million interior. "You think this success belongs to you? It belongs to all of us. We invested in you. Now the family needs a return, and you want to keep everything for yourself. That's selfish, Vanessa." There it was, the distorted arithmetic. In their view, my success was shared property, a dividend owed for basic parenting. My work, my risks, my sleepless nights building this company from a single salvage tug, that was simply family equity reaching maturity. But James's failures were tragedies. His debts were collective burdens requiring rescue. My assets were communal. His liabilities were emergencies. "You didn't invest in me," I said quietly. "You endured me, and I endured you. Now get off my boat." "We can't," James said without looking up. "I ended my lease. We left the house this morning. We're staying here until I get back on my feet." "We're helping your brother," Brenda said sharply. "He's in serious trouble, Vanessa, and since you're the only one sitting on money you don't need, you're going to help him." $148,000, Roger said, as if reading a forecast. "He borrowed it for a crypto venture that failed. The lender is private, aggressive. They aren't sending letters, they're sending photos of James walking to his car." James finally looked up, pale and sweating. For a moment, I saw genuine fear. It was the only honest expression in the room. "I don't have $150,000 in cash," I said. "This is an operating business. My capital is committed to fuel, insurance, and maintenance. Pulling that amount today would destabilize everything." "Then destabilize it," Brenda replied calmly, as she poured herself sparkling water. "You can rebuild. James can't. If he defaults, he could end up in prison or worse. Are you really going to prioritize a bank balance over your brother's safety? Why is this my responsibility? I asked. Why am I the backup plan for his gambling? Roger sighed, as if explaining something obvious. It's not charity. Think of it as retroactive repayment. You lived with us for a month after college while you searched for work. We fed you. We housed you. We supported you when you had nothing. We calculated it. Interest, inflation, opportunity cost. You owe the family about this amount. We're simply collecting. The room felt heavier. Retroactive repayment. They had converted my existence into a balance sheet. Every meal, every night under their roof, every act of parenting had been entered into a mental ledger, accumulating interest until I became profitable. I need to review the accounts. I peeked up my tablet. I can't handle this discussion here.
I walked out before they could continue arguing and went up the stairs to the bridge deck. I locked the heavy, watertight door behind me and leaned against it, breathing in the mix of salt and clean air. This situation wasn't new. It was a repeat. 7 years ago, my grandmother left me $10,000. It was my starting capital, my exit plan. The day after her funeral, I went to the bank to transfer the funds and discovered the account was empty. The teller showed me the withdrawal slip. The signature looked like mine, but the curve of the letter V was unsteady, exactly how Roger wrote it when he was anxious. They had forged my signature to fund James's first app project. When I confronted them, they didn't deny it. They said I was selfish. James has vision, they told me. You just have a hobby. I rebuilt from nothing. I cleaned decks until my hands cracked. I saved every tip and bonus, lived on instant noodles, while James posted photos from Vegas, spending what had been taken from me. It wasn't neglect, it was exploitation. They consumed my beginning, and now they were back to consume the outcome. I looked at the Miami skyline, the glass towers reflecting on the water. They believed I was reviewing accounts. They assumed I was preparing to transfer money to rescue them. They didn't understand that the person they took from 7 years ago no longer existed. She disappeared the day she saw that empty account. The woman standing on the bridge wasn't operating as a daughter. She was a CEO who understood hostile acquisitions. I wasn't going to give them the money, but I also wasn't going to argue. Conflict gives leverage. It creates the illusion of equal footing. I needed to approach this like an investor. I unlocked the door and went back down. I need to go to the bank, I told them. Moving this amount from my phone will trigger fraud alerts. It has to be done in person. Roger narrowed his eyes, stirring the ice in his glass. You're not going to the police, are you? That would end badly for James. And for me, I replied, picking up my keys. I'm not going to the police. I'm going to resolve this, like I always do. I left the boat without looking back. But I didn't drive to the bank. I went 3 blocks to Havana, a cigar bar scented with cedar and quiet wealth. Aunt Morgan was waiting in a back booth with an espresso. She was my mother's sister, but fundamentally different, a retired corporate litigator who had divorced 3 husbands and kept every property. Let me see the demand letter, she said, extending a hand covered in diamonds. I handed her the wrinkled paper James had tossed onto the table. She read it carefully, her expression sharpening behind her glasses. Then she let out a short, dry laugh. Apex Global Holdings. Vanessa, this isn't a random loan shark. This is Barry Siegel. He runs a predatory lending operation out of a strip mall in Fort Lauderdale. He pressures wealthy but inexperienced borrowers into paying extreme interest. Can we delay him? Better, she replied. She took out her phone. Barry owes me a favor from a merger back in '98. If I call and offer 60 cents on the dollar in cash today, he'll sell the debt note just to remove it from his books. He knows James is likely to default. 60% guaranteed is better than chasing a loss. Do it, I said. Use my operating account. Purchase the note. Morgan dialed. I watched her speak, her voice shifting into that calm tone she used before dismantling an opponent. 3 minutes later, she ended the call. It's done. The wire is pending. In 10 minutes, Barry gets paid, and you become the holder of James's debt. You control the note." "Good," I said. "Now help me prepare the paperwork." We spent the next hour working on our iPad. We didn't prepare a check. We prepared a structure. By the time I returned to the marina, the sun was low, stretching long shadows across the water. I adjusted my hair in the mirror, loosening a few strands to appear unsettled. I practiced the right expression: tired, compliant, subdued. When I boarded the Sovereign, they were waiting in the salon. James had opened another bottle of wine. Brenda was browsing a yachting magazine, already selecting design changes. "Well," Roger demanded, "is it handled?" "I can do it," I said, letting my shoulders drop. "The funds have been moved, but there's an issue with the IRS." "What issue?" "It's $150,000 leaving a corporate account. I can't simply gift it. Auditors would flag it as misappropriation. It has to be recorded as a formal transaction, a debt purchase." I placed my phone on the coffee table, positioning it against a vase so the camera faced the sofa where they sat. "My board requires a compliance recording for transfers over $10,000. I need you to confirm on video that this money is for James's debt and that you authorize the transaction. Without the recording, the bank will freeze the wire." Roger glanced at the phone, then at the wine bottle, then at James. Greed reduces caution. He didn't see risk. He saw compliance. "Fine," he said, with a dismissive wave. "Turn it on. Let's finish this." I pressed record.
"I'm sorry about earlier," I said, adjusting my tone into that of a corrected daughter. I walked to the wet bar and opened a bottle of Dom Perignon. I was under pressure. Running a business is demanding. I shouldn't have directed that frustration at you. I poured 4 glasses, the sound of carbonation filling the quiet room. I handed one to Roger, one to Brenda, and slid the third to James. They accepted them, cautious but interested. Apology and alcohol, 2 tools that consistently worked on them. "I want to help," I continued, sitting across from them and making my posture appear less assertive. "I can't let James face prison. You're right. Family matters." Brenda exhaled deeply. "I knew you'd understand eventually, Vanessa. We only want what's best for everyone." "But this has to be structured properly," I said quietly, leaning forward as if sharing strategy. "I can't write a $150,000 check directly. My accountant would object, and the tax consequences would be severe. Nearly 40% would go to the IRS. Roger immediately focused. He leaned in, forgetting his scotch. "So what's your solution?" I explained smoothly. "My company purchases the obligation. It's recorded as a distressed asset. That allows me to claim a tax deduction. I save approximately $40,000, and James resolves the issue." I saw the change in Roger's expression. This was no longer just a rescue. It was a strategic move. He believed he was participating in something advantageous. That perception reassured him. "That sounds complicated," James said, glancing at the phone I had positioned upright on the table. "It's standard documentation," I replied. "However, to satisfy compliance requirements, we need a paper trail. You'll need to sign an asset guarantee. It states that if the debt isn't repaid, which won't be relevant because my company will own it, the business retains a claim against your assets." I placed the document on the table. It was detailed, filled with formal legal language. "It's procedural," I added, dismissing it lightly. "It will be filed and never referenced again. It simply demonstrates that this is a secured investment rather than a personal gift. That supports the tax position." Roger picked up the pen and rotated it between his fingers. "So once we sign, the debt disappears?" "Yes," I answered. "The funds are wired to the lender immediately. But first, for compliance recording," I gestured toward the phone, "I need you to confirm that the debt belongs to James and that you, as guarantors, do not currently have liquid assets to resolve it." Auditors require acknowledgement of insolvency, otherwise they question why the guarantors didn't settle it directly. Roger cleared his throat and straightened, looking into the phone camera with misplaced confidence. I, Roger Reynolds, confirm that this debt of $148,000 was incurred by my son, James Reynolds. We do not have sufficient cash available to satisfy this obligation. Thank you, I said. And for audit consistency, since they may review previous financial transfers, it would help to reference the original seed funds, the inheritance from grandmother. That establishes a pattern of commingled family finances. It was a calculated risk, but Roger had consumed enough to feel secure. He believed this was routine clarification. Of course, he said casually. We used Vanessa's inheritance years ago for James's first venture. It was all shared family money. He had just admitted, on record, to forgery and misappropriation, believing it strengthened my tax narrative. I slid the document forward. Please sign on the guarantor line. None of them read it carefully. They ignored the default clause, the lien provisions, the waiver of defenses. Roger signed first. Brenda and James followed. They appeared satisfied, confident they had secured their outcome. My phone vibrated. Transaction complete. Asset acquired. I ended the recording. The transfer is complete. However, I did not eliminate the debt. I purchased it. The obligation now belongs to me. The room went silent. I directed their attention to the relevant clause. Their recorded admission of insolvency triggered automatic default under the guarantee. The property listed as collateral was now enforceable. The lien was active. Foreclosure proceedings had begun. Roger reacted immediately. Brenda raised her voice. James became visibly unsettled. I pressed the silent alarm. Within moments, Port Authority officers arrived. These individuals are unauthorized passengers on a commercial vessel, I stated clearly. They were escorted off the yacht without further negotiation. There was no leverage remaining. 3 weeks later, the court issued summary judgment. The lien was upheld. The property was sold. The outstanding debt, prior theft, and legal expenses were fully recovered. James received a wage garnishment order. 15% for 10 years. You're a monster, he said. No, I replied. I'm a creditor. As the yacht departed the marina, I deleted their contact information. Family is not an unlimited liability.